Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Sri Lankan security forces fought against brutal force of terror for 30 long years and adopted a different approach with the end of the terrorist campaign. The world's largest rescue operation in living memory was launched with a strategy to ensure that the people will experience no longer the smell of death, destruction, and desolation, but future of hope, prosperity, peace, and reconciliation. Approximately 300,000 citizens of this country made their exodus from the iron fist of a brutal LTT force. Many cynics note that this war would be without witness, but battle was witnessed by none other than the civilians and ex-combatants themselves, not the virtual cynics who speculated so-called bloodbath. When security forces launched the humanitarian operation year 2007 to liberate innocent civilians who were held hostage by the LTT, a parallel operation was executed to ensure the safety of civilians who were either rescued or escaped from the LTT, risking their own life. This parallel operation was conducted as per the instructions and the guidance by the then Security Forces Commander Vanni, the present commander of the army. The operation has 3 stages: rescuing civilians and reception of IDP in the first stage, administering IDPs in the second stage, and resettlement of IDP in the third stage. The rehabilitation of the combatant was executed parallel to this operation. An elaborate plan was drawn up to receive the IDPs who were rescued from the LTT as per the instructions given by the Security Forces Commander. Those instructions are as shown on the screen. Ensuring zero vulnerability of civilians to LTT direct and indirect fire during the reception. Provision of water and food on reception. Provision of medical care if required on reception. Transportation to safe areas after reception. On receipt of these instructions, headquarters, forward maintenance area formulated a plan to establish a mobile reception center very close to the forwardmost line of combat troops. It is also pertinent to note that every steps were taken to prevent LTT cadres entering, mingling with the civilians, and smuggling arms, ammunition, and explosives into cleared areas. Frontline troops were instructed to receive the civilians with utmost care and provide whatever assistance they want. Those facilities were established at all anticipated entry points, and unarmed soldiers on the front line not only secured and protected the people, but carried most of the old, sick, and wounded, risking their life in many instances, and children on their shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, event took place at Nandikanda Lagoon, which we will see now is one of the classic examples for this. One of the key areas that warranted attention was the composition of troops for executing the entire operation. In keeping with the international law of military operations, receptions of females and children was carried out by the female soldiers, and males were received by their male counterpart. All steps were taken to keep the family members together. Transportation of civilians after the reception was another challenge faced by the security forces. It was overcome with the assistance of the state transportation agencies. First group of IDPs, numbering 189, arrived at Iranai Iropai Kulam on 23rd March 2007, escaping from LTT, risking their life. Since then, small numbers escaped from the LTT, risking their life, and entered common controlled areas until the launching of biggest ever rescue operation in annals of military history in May 2009 by the Sri Lankan gallant security forces. On arrival, IDPs were guided to secured locations and wounded and disabled were evacuated to medical centers. Those who needed special medical attention were airlifted directly to general hospitals at Vaunia, Trincomalee, Anuradhapura and Kandy, and at times to Colombo directly. Pregnant women, women with infant, children, elders and disabled were given special priority. Further, they were given adequate water and food on reception by the soldiers. Then all IDPs were physically screened before transport to waiting areas. However, detailed screening was carried out at Omantai subsequently. In keeping with the international law and norms and the tradition, all ex-combatants were asked to report to pre-designated counters in the presence of ICRC and the representatives of the GA to separate them from the normal public. Two-stage registration process was carried out with initial registering at forward registration center and detailed registration at Vaunia subsequently. During the entire process of receiving IDPs, Sri Lanka Army assisted IDPs by providing food, shelter, protection, medical care. The cookhouses were established in forward locations by the Army, and hot meals for the IDPs were provided using Army bulk rations. Throughout the operation, all essential items to the civilians were at no-fire zones and LTT-held areas sent through ICRC. However, government knew most of it would have fallen into the hands of the LTT. Further, the Green Ocean ship was launched with ICRC medics to evacuate patients directly from Vellamulli Vaikal to field hospitals at Pulmude and Trincomalee on 3 occasions at the height of the battle. However, with all these human effort by the unarmed soldiers to get IDP into safety, still the barbaric nature of the LTT did not change. On 9th February 2009, a female LTT cadre in the guise of a civilian entered the reception center near Dharmapuram and blew herself up, killing 1 officer and 17 soldiers, including 3 women soldiers, and 19 civilians, including children. And over 75 civilians and 1 officer and few more soldiers got injured during this blast. Ladies and gentlemen, this again proved beyond doubt that the LTT did not want the civilian rescued, but they wanted to use them as a human shield. However, this type of sabotage act by the terrorists could not break the will of the security forces. And the success achieved during the reception phase provided ideal platform for us to launch the next phase of the operation, that is the systematic administering of IDPs. However, provision of basic services for the largest ever influx of approximately 300,000 IDPs in a very short span of time was a gigantic task for the local authorities as well as the Sri Lanka Army. Therefore, the government appointed a competent authority to handle all matters related to IDPs. By this time, His Excellency the President declared a national effort pooling resources of ministries of resettlement and disaster relief, disaster management and human rights, health, together with National Disaster Management Center, the government agent, and the security forces to attend requirement of initial stage of accommodating displaced personnel at IDP villages. Ladies and gentlemen, then we proceeded to the next phase of the operation, the aspect of administering IDPs. Sri Lanka Army, with the assistance of relevant ministries, the government agent, competent authority, INGOs and NGOs, quite successfully accomplished the task